Video 56. August 3, 2011. Mythi, Maya, Paul, and some other friends are asking about more details on Elenin and the dwarf star. Could you clarify this matter? Okay friends, let's be a little more specific. Comet Elenin, blue Kachina. Type: solid core with medium diameter 4.5 km, 2.8 miles. Coma, dust and gases with 74,000 km of density influence. After crossing the asteroid belt, capturing more material, asteroids and dust, will increase the diameter of the coma for approximate 100,000 km, 62,500 miles. Average speed, 53,700 miles per hour. Proximity with Earth, approximate 37,500 miles during October/2011. Dwarf star Nibiru, red Kachina. Type: solar system with 6 major planets orbiting, with a total diameter of approximate 170,000 km, 106,000 miles. Mass, approximate 3.5x Jupiter mass. Average speed, 22,000 miles per hour. Proximity with Earth, approximate 10,800,000 miles possible during November 2011. I believe that the restraints provided by Krulians in the dwarf star weeks ago released literally the core of the planet that was traveling on its gravitational force, which is now approaching the first as Comet Elenin. See, the Community Galactica does not communicate all decisions taken. It communicates only the timings of events when they were finally defined. Note that the average speed of the two was quite different in the approach of the solar system, almost double. So the difference between passages was approximate 12 months. The speed of the dwarf star Nibiru may be increased if there is a large solar geomagnetic reaction to his approach, and this could advance his arrival to a few months or days before Elenin, as well as to change its orbit closest to Earth caused by the vector resulting from the centrifugal effect on its perigee. With the passage of the dwarf star, the orbits of some planets may be changed in the solar system. Especially Mars will be closer to the Earth's orbit, Mercury that may be adopted by the dwarf star, and Venus, which may have its orbit more closely to the Sunday. The Earth may have changed slightly to its orbit farthest from the Sun, which could fall in 3 degrees centigrade average temperature of the planet. The Krulians have already indicated that the Sun may have some unexpected reactions to be near its maximum duty cycle. They are in place, closely following the two events, with their spacecrafts, to try to minimize the effects if extremely necessary. There is the possibility of the Community Galactica allowing a large Krulian spacecraft, which is following the comet, passing by the Earth with the field of invisibility off, so that the population as a whole can see the truth of the facts for the first time, and know we're here. Our command voted for this decision. The Pleiades are in place to prevent any extremists' Earthlings attempt to launch any offensive against the Krulians. That is, smaller ships may also be visible. This may frighten many people at first, but people like you who know the facts can help others understand what is actually happening. You are being informed, and this is also a social responsibility that you are receiving. Let's see what happens. Let's keep watching and continue to inform you about it. A friend asks, Mythi, as our planet continues to destabilize due to effects mentioned in previous statements, and the elites are feeding the fire through disinformation, would you expect to see an alliance between the reptilians and their greys that are working with the elites to, how should I say, start a mock war or invasion against us? Doing so would develop hatred of humanoid against all non-Earth beings, and increase the power base of elites. Would we be on our own till the dust settles? Friend, as I explained in the past, the reptilians, allies of your current elite, will not directly participate in any genocide. They can even make representations with their craft, but who will unleash acts of possible exception, will be your governments. The reptilians do not want to pass the scrutiny of the Community Galactica, because they cannot in any way interfere directly with the humanoids on the planet. Not to be politically, as they've been doing in the role of guests. We know that this type of scenario will be created by your government, because they already had advanced holographic techniques with the reptilian scientists to do this kind of presentation. But the people on the planet will soon realize who is who in the context of survival and reorganization. The acts of your government will not go unnoticed, and this will generate a great upheaval in your fellow citizens. Soon everyone will realize against whom they must defend themselves. In the short term, your government will try to make a forcible disarmament of the population, and close your trade in arms and ammunition to prevent resistance. All your personal communication will be censored and subject to location. The civil rights will be revoked, as well as the free movement of vehicles. Will only have the right to food, medicine, and lodging those who agree with free and spontaneous will. Come under the tutelage of the government, in places of confinement. Initially, you have to take your first steps for yourself. We can only announce our help when it is determined that the situation of individual groups is out of control. In many cases, we may confront us with your military forces to prevent indiscriminate extermination of populations isolated or surrounded. I believe the orders will be clear to protect the remaining population. Mary asks, Mythi, I am confused about the order of events. When might the coronal mass ejection occur? How will we know? Mary, the reactions and solar mass ejections are the result of the imbalance of the geomagnetic field of the Sun when magnetically influenced by massive bodies. This causes holes literally between lines of the solar magnetic field, freeing up space for the large amount of energy radiated. When object intruder is between Earth and the Sun, drawing to it the solar flares, as it will be linked to the Sun through a tunnel of gravitational force, which will force this object to make the resulting curve at the apex of its orbit. Just as an example, if you were running and holding a bush to make a fast corner, you will arch bush in your direction, while your inertial weight is absorbed by it as it reacts in the opposite direction, right? In the case of the Sun, a part of this force causes a mass loss by ejection in the direction of the aggressor force. The Earth will be exactly the region where this force is greater, the curved apex of orbit. So it will be the target of this energy ejection. These bursts of energy it takes hours to get. So will not be a serious problem to which can hide the Sun, but in the case of satellites, power grids and electronics, will be fatal. Jose asks, would we have a shower of neutron radiation, and if so, how can we protect from it? It's been said that radiation will erase, or impaired our reasoning for an undetermined amount of time. Or indefinitely, is it true? Also, there are other indicators that would advise Internet to stop functioning gradually beginning March 2012. Do you know something about this? Jose, there will be a great shower of radiation with the approach of dwarf star. Starting in January, your satellites are being eliminated, so the Internet will not work, as the satellites are being destroyed. Many of your satellites will lose their orbits now, during the approach of Elenin. Radiation from dwarf star added to solar flares, will begin to affect other satellites from the end of January 2012. In fact, the radiation will decrease only in late 2012, early 2013. Humans will protect more during the day and be more active at night. That was why the elites provided seed banks, as flora and fauna will suffer greatly in this situation. And how much would be lacking? This radiation is like a microwave. It can literally affect the brain by internal heating and disable many functions. It will be important to keep well protected from the Sun during solar flares detected all in advance. When you sense the Sun burning in your hand skin, do not expose the rest of the body. Jose asks, could you please advise how severe would the trail of meteorites, that would unattached from the dwarf star, once it passes through the Earth be? How long this bombardment to Earth would take? Jose, the trail of meteors will occur on both occasions, with Elenin this year and the dwarf star next year. In both cases, when they pass through the asteroid belt they spread many meteors. As the dwarf star is a system of large volume, it will cause a major strike in its path. The big problem is that your governments will use this against people, claiming the shock of meteors. The previously planned actions. Be alert. Silver asks, why is the Earth called Tiamat? While this is the same name for the Babylonian goddess of the ocean, and it also refers to the primordial monster of chaos. Is this history related to why our planet is called like this? Silver, according to our records, it is so called since the days of the formation of the oceans, when the water was conveyed here through portals. When the oceans were formed, she became known as Tiamat, whose speech sound means big water in some alien languages. This name was passed to the ancient cultures long after by visitors from outer space, who were considered gods, so they adopted the name Tiamat to the god of the oceans. I do not know about the reference monster of chaos where it came from. Millipia and some friends asks, a number of sites claim India and the western two-thirds of Australia will be pushed under the sea at the time of the pole shift. Can you please confirm? and how these people should prepare for such an event. Friends, all coastal areas of the planet will suffer the influences of rising oceans. Some tectonic regions in particular will go down to hundreds of meters in relation to other regions that will be raised in relation to sea level. The tectonic plates are floating in the magma. If one of them will raise, some others sink to equalize the pressure. Depending on the gravitational pressure which may be exercised by the approach of dwarf star, ocean floors will rise as land surfaces may sink, as has happened many times in antiquity. Great civilizations sank in the ocean. There are entire cities, temples, pyramids, many ancient buildings, under your oceans. I cannot pass to you such predictions because there are hundreds of variables that will interact among themselves in these events. And it would be my fault to try this type of prediction without a certainty of all the variables involved. My advice is to be practical. If you notice trends: fragile soil, little difference in sea level and proximity to volcanic areas, try the fullest extent possible, while avoiding these areas.